let's get started. So we left off here. Let's go ahead and so whenever I do that, that align cursor to surface, what I'll end up doing is that's under Preferences, Edit, and when I'm sculpting, I don't necessarily need to see this cursor kind of flopping around, so I'm going to go through there. And let's go ahead and crank up my lazy radius on here. So under lazy mouse here, you can tap L to turn that on and off. I'm going to take that lazy radius for my Damien standard and turn it up just so I can get a cleaner sweep. Let's go turn it up a little bit more. So I'll usually do that with a lot of my brushes too, like Dam Standard, standard brush as well, just to kind of get a little bit more of a clean sweep. Although it's not really working for me. Let's crank that down just a little bit. So again, I'm going to kind of define these upper eyelids a little bit more. And we didn't manually retopologize this face. We went through and we did ZRemesher, which works in a pinch. But it will have some artifacts. So if we wanted to, we could clean up the ZRemesh, or you could hand topologize it, or you could use like ZWrap to go through and topologize it as well. But I think we'll forego any of that. I think this will be close enough for government work, which is what we're doing. We're not doing anything final. It's more of just like a concept piece. I'm also going to hold down Shift and turn that down. I usually have, by default, I've changed my shift brush. So if I go in here to, what? Smooth brush modifiers, you're going to see it's always set to weighted smooth mode of 1, which is smooth stronger. So I basically just overridden that and then saved over that stuff. So I'm also going to go in here at the H polish and just kind of H polish this lid back. And let's go ahead and fix some of this wobbliness here. So I'm going to go into Move Accu, which we've talked about. On your brush curve, there's an Accu curve you can turn on, and that just allows that move brush to move smaller areas and also pull out to corners if we want to do hard surface stuff and pull things out to corners. So something like that maybe. And I got that here. We got this kind of poly painted, and it's kind of going. And let's go ahead. It looks like there's some slight pinching over here. Let's say, let's go through here and try and clean this up a little bit. Now, because we didn't go through and manually topologize this thing, there may be some areas where there's pinching. In fact, I know there's pinching on the female face that we did. One of Ko's faces in here. And so this is a tool we took from here, this female head. And there is definitely some, if we drop down to subdivision level 1, there's like this little thing right here. That geometry can lead to geometry that does this. So you can hold down Shift and Smooth. Let's try on X symmetry here. Shift to Smooth, and you're going to see it kind of exacerbates the issue. However, if you hold down Shift and let go of Shift, it'll kind of push those verts across the volume and give you a little bit of a better result. But let's go ahead and we'll fix her face a little bit too. Hey everybody! Yes. Oh yeah. This made it. My shirt made its way back into its rotation. So what I've been doing since I've been, we've all been kind of stuck at home, is going through. Well, not everybody, but I'm one of them that has been. I'll do my laundry and then I'll take all my shirts and I won't fold them. I'll just lay them all on top of each other and I'll put them on top of my closet, and then I'll just go through the stack. So by the time I get around back to this one, it's time to stream again. So let's see here, and yeah, there's some serious issues with this. And again, I'm not overly concerned. I can probably work my way around this, but this is not necessarily ideal. So let's go ahead and we'll define this side of the nose real quick, just a little bit more. And also let's change the shape of her face a little bit. Let's go down to subdivision level 1. And because there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm going to kind of just go through and we could retopologize this. I'm just kind of looking at my the face reference, and it's kind of a little bit hard to tell what exactly is going on in the features and stuff. So it's kind of generic, which is okay. So I'm just going to kind of go through and match. Let's see if I can't. So then when you smile, I'm going to kind of maybe just give her a little indication here of some, and I'll go in here with the inflate brush instead of like clay or clay buildup, just because it's a little bit of a softer transition. I don't need anything harsh. I just need an indication of these cheeks doing something. And you could put this in a layer if you want. Let me actually open this up. Here, blend. My YouTube channel, there's a ZBrush Maya Blend Shapes plugin.
Easy selection.
And oops, give me a second here. You can check that out, and you can have your neutral face, and then you can just use blend shapes to dial in emotions, and then you can use the same face to kind of cycle through different things. Cool. From Japan, way over there. Hey, how are you? I'm new to ZBrush. I'm confused with this. Help me out. Oh, I got you covered. So here on my ArtStation page, there's a ZBrush for ideation. Click on that. And in the upper right hand corner, there's 56 videos, and that'll get you started on ZBrush. Cool, excellent. Or you can go to that photography blog. I'm sure that's good too. Let's see, how to retopologize. Oh, I got you covered there too. So if you go in here and you go retop, ZRemesher cleanup. Actually, let's just do topology. Masking of polygroups, and we actually did topology last time in last week's video. Let me see. Masking of polygroups, Z-sphere topology and cleanup. Trying to think of the best one. Head ZRemesh and cleanup. This one might be okay. So here's one on that. If you're doing like Maya topology with quad draw, here's retopology with quad draw in here. So, you know, I won't link you to all these, or you know what, you can go through here, or we can just do topology. Although, yeah, I guess that's all right. Yeah, ZRemesh, Z-sphere topology, and then manually just using Z-sphere topologies down here. You can, that's how I'd go about it, I suppose. Cool. So let me, yeah, so she's smiling a little bit, so I'm going to go through here, and I'm just going to use my Damien standard to kind of go through and say, okay, you, and then we'll say smooth. And again, every time I smooth on this face, because the geometry does have so many poles on it, I'm holding down shift and then letting go of shift immediately, just to get a little bit of a smoother transition. And then for building up the volumes on this face, I'm using inflate rather than just like clay brush or standard brush or anything like that. Again, just very soft, subtle shapes, and then very soft, subtle smoothing to kind of give me the look I'm going for this one in particular. Okay, okay. And let me see, also, you know, I'm just using this and this. I think we'll smooth these eyes around a little bit. So I'm going to go up, I'm subdivision level 2, I'm going to hold down shift and turn on these eyeballs here. And actually, let's just turn on the face and the eyes here. And these will work fine, I suppose. Looks like her chin is a little smaller. that nose just a little bit. All right, let's call that a day. So we've got this. We'll go back up to subdivision level 3. And also, looks like this, if I give this a skin shader, well, let's start getting everything into our scene here. So we're going to have to start doing our big scene. Last time, well, I guess I didn't do this live, but for marketing, I started putting materials on here. So I'm going to forego that just a bit. So here is our kind of working file. And then we've got this. Now we've got this, and it's got a bunch of stuff in here. So let's say, you know what, let's delete this folder. So this is just how we ended up. So after the live stream, I went through and I did some stuff just to get everything into the same thing. So I'll walk through that. So let's start setting up our scene. And I'm going to use this scene as my basis. So we've got the front part of the body here, and we've also got another file I need to bring in here, the pieces we did. If you want to catch up, again, just on my YouTube channel here, you can go, here's the last live stream we did. It's also going to be underneath playlist, live stream, full episodes, so you can kind of catch up on that if you want to. And eventually I should probably go through here and start making either playlists maybe, or on my ArtStation page, make a page for every kind of subject that we do, just to make things a little bit more organized, a little bit easier to find, because I empathize. It's not really that well organized. How would you go for modeling a Doom style game with skewed panels and bevels, for example? Go get them and search Doom Hatch Robert Hodry. Let's see here. Oh, and that looks just like just kind of basic sub-D modeling. I mean, if you wanted to block it out, anything that's, well, I should show you, anything that's on a bunch of flat surfaces like this are usually pretty easy to resolve, and they're all fairly basic shapes. So this seems like a pretty straightforward. So I would probably use ZModeler for this, or you know, go into Maya or Blender and just use, you know, start with the square and bevel the corners and bring in the verts and bevel those and grab these faces and bevel those, or, you know, extrude those and maybe put in a crease modifier. It looks like a pretty straightforward. I'm gonna make the axis line more visible. Axis line on here, like these ones. Oh, probably under preferences somewhere. Let me think. Preferences, interface, colors. That I'm not 100% sure on. Maybe under, yeah, preferences draw. It makes, I want to say preferences draw for some reason, but that's more of the actual geometry draw and polyframes, not necessarily the floor. Maybe there's floor preferences in here somewhere. I mean, there is draw over here that has elevation and floor grid size tiles. Nope. I was hoping it'd be in there. I'm not exactly sure. I was going to go if I would just watch pretty much what you're linking. That's, I mean, I do have intro to ZBrush stuff as well. It's a little bit dated, but that's a good point. So for here, or you know what, ZBrush 2. If you go down here, there's intro to ZBrush part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 2 and part 3 is on Gumroad. In fact, there's 7 parts, I think, to ZBrush for ideation, but the first part will get you up and running. And then intro to ZBrush part 1, it's a little bit dated, but it also has some fun stuff in there, like sculpting busts and using Dynamesh, so still relevant. It just doesn't have things like the gizmo in it. It's a little bit, I think it's R7 is where that one stopped. Top tips to become a ZBrush speedrunner. Speaking of speedrunning, if we go here, down here in video, I think like 40 something, interface and menus, custom interface and menus, 49, and then hotkeys somewhere on here. Basically, if I do something all the time, it's a hotkey. Like, you know, I'm going to go to clay brush or clay buildup or orb cracks, which somehow got that as my icon. I like that. And that's not even the right brush. I'll have to fix that. I'm not sure what happened there. And then also like H polish, trim dynamic and stuff, I'll just assign a hotkey. If I use it a lot, I'll put it in my custom menu over here, which is just follow that custom menu video, and I'll assign a hotkey to that. So it's like a marking menu, and you can have multiple custom menus. If I use it sometimes, I'll hit the comma key, and then I'll have like custom brushes in here I can go grab as needed. And I think that's it. Between those, you should be, and it's just a lot of muscle memory. So if you want to go through here and like use ZModeler a lot, I think people's biggest complaint about ZModeler is like, I want a hotkey for bevel. You can duplicate off the ZModeler brush as many times as you want. And the cool thing about hotkeys with ZModeler, if you wanted to do it that way, is you could set this up to say, okay, every face action I want it to be extrude, polygroup all, and then every edge action I want to be bevel, edge loop complete, and then every point action I want to be split. And you can save a hotkey for that. And then you can duplicate, or you can clone off this brush, and you can say, okay, with this hotkey, I want the face action to always be inset, polygroup all, region. And I want every edge action to be, I don't know, what else we do with edges? Collapse, edge. And then I want every point action to be bridge, 2 points. So I can go through here and do this. So you can save a hotkey for that. So not only are you saving a hotkey for, oh, I want this hotkey to go through here and extrude, polygroup all. I also wanted my edge actions to complement that. And I also want my inset actions to complement that. So you can actually set up multiple ZModeler brushes with different hotkeys. But I don't really do that. I just go through here, and if I want to extrude something, I just go grab extrude, and it's pretty fast. So things that I do all the time, like bevel or inset, I can find pretty quickly and set the settings up. But if you want to assign hotkeys, you can assign hotkeys, and you can get what you want, and also have face, edge, and point actions for every hotkey you set, as opposed to here's one hotkey for bevel. Here's one hotkey for extrude. You can have those in one hotkey using ZModeler, and then it's all context sensitive. Any new techniques for photogrammetry by DSLR or smartphone? New techniques? I haven't really kept up, but I haven't heard anything super new other than like auto processing, like using Houdini or something and plugins to kind of do some of the lifting for you. Cool. Hey, everybody. Yeah, so that helps, like Johnny says. Okay, so we got the body, we got the head, we got this, and now we need to get everything all together into a scene so we can start making our final, let me go to my profile here, which is going to be something like this. So kind of wrapped around a stalactite and then kind of swooping down. Now we have the body pieces, but I haven't made it into a helix or a shape yet because it'll be a little bit, that was weird. It'll be a little bit easier to do that on the fly as opposed to like, if you wanted to pose something out, you could do something in an A pose and then go through and use like Z spheres or transpose master to do it. Same thing with this. You could lay this kind of snake body out in a straight line and then go through and pose it later. But since it's segmented, I think it'll be easier just to take those segments and kind of apply it to a line. And we'll talk about a couple different techniques to do that. But first, we need to put all of these in a group. Or a folder, I should say. So I'm going to hit Control F, or you can go down there to the folder option under Subtool, and we're going to say this Aang face. We'll go ahead and drop all these in here. I could have, whenever you're going to do something like that, you can also try do move multiple, and then grab what you want to be in a folder, like this and this and this. I want to be in a folder, and then when you hit Control F, anything you have grouped under move multiple will go into its own folder. But this is fine. So here I want to move all these folder objects into a new subtool. So I'm going to go in here to Z plugin, subtool master, and we're going to say copy folder. Then we're going to go here to the body, and we're going to say paste folder. And then I'll go ahead and paste that entire folder. Now his head's a little big for this scene. That's okay. So we're going to go up here, and we're going to say this little gear icon. We can say transpose set, and then I'll go ahead and just grab all of those folder pieces. So I'm going to go out of X symmetry, you're going to go to unmesh mesh center, turn X symmetry back on, and we got move multiple because we're transposing a set. And now I can, his head is pretty significantly smaller. Again, just going by, this little preview image here. So I'm going to say, you're about, and we may change this just based on the needs of the scene. And then on the floor here, I'm going to center him over the floor because now that I look at it, I'm probably going to have to make a little bit of his body too. So let's do that real quick as we can. So we've got this here, and let's organize this a little bit better. I'm going to close this folder up. Let's see, can I drag this folder? Yeah. So now this folder is here, and then all of her pieces are here. So I'm going to turn off all her pieces. And so we've got his up here, and we'll go ahead and deselect his. So let's go ahead and turn all these head pieces on. Can I take these and, that wants to do all my pieces. Let's try this. Let's say, so again, we're going to say move multiple, Control Shift, unhash everything. And then we'll say, so all the face pieces here, all of her pieces are here, and I think we're good to go in that folder. These are kind of, let's say crease level of 1, just to kind of soften there. You know what? Let's even maybe turn off our crease level, because that should be a fairly soft transition, although this is still pretty harsh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this green polygroup back here, and we're going to say QMesh polygroup all, and instead of QMeshing out and adding an edge loop, because that's not going to fix the real issue I'm having, I'm going to hold down Shift and just give that a little bit more room to breathe. And then uncrease all. And then now I can go through here and I'll say, instead of QMesh, because it's going to want to stick faces together, let's just do a simple extrude polygroup all. Let's do Shift D, and we're having some severe pinching over here. So let's go ahead and to alleviate some of this. In fact, let's go ahead and make this a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to insert single edge loop, and I'm just going to hold down Alt. I'm going to get rid of some of this extraneous geo that we don't need. It says I just need this basic shape. So we ZRemeshed this originally, which is great for cleaning up broad shapes, but again can sometimes put kind of extraneous pieces in here. Let's hold down Shift. I'm going to drop my Z intensity way down. Let's see if we can't alleviate some of this bad pinching over here. There we go. So at least now I can see this corner here. And you know what? It might be easy enough. This is a little cramped in here. Let's go in here to collapse edge. We're just going to collapse these in. And you can collapse either way, just kind of drag in the direction or the opposite direction it looks like you want to collapse. And then this up here. We have X symmetry turned on, so we're getting the same on both sides. And then now we can turn on dynamic. Let's see, Shift D. I'll go ahead and say collapse to this corner as well. It's kind of simplifying that corner. Actually, let's do this. Let's do mirror in the X and then mirror and weld. Looks like we lost symmetry a little bit. There we go. A little bit of a smoother shape here. And now we may be okay to say crease polygroup, crease level 2, smooth set div of 3. Okay, that's a little bit nicer. I'll go through here and we'll use our move brush and we'll kind of move this around. This kind of hugs her face a little bit. As I do crease level 1. Maybe we'll go through here and we'll inflate. And since this is kind of just a piece that kind of goes around her face, or its face, since it's a little demon creature, let's go through here, unmask this. And this is kind of ambiguous. When we turn on the color, it's just kind of dark in there. But this piece here, we can maybe, I don't know, play up. Now, I'm not going to be able to really sculpt on this right now because you can try sculpting on it, but it's not going to do much because we don't have any geometry there. So if I'm going to start sculpting on this, I'm going to need to add, go in here and move. And looking through those meshes as just kind of a graphics thing. It's not actually leaving a hole in geometry. Sometimes it does. But in this case, it's just a graphical thing. So go through here. So now if I start sculpting on this, I'm going to have a lot of resolution in here and not a lot of resolution in here because these are all kind of stretched polygons. So through here, I'm going to go back through and say insert multiple edge loops. And is there a way to do, there's alternate polygroups, but this is probably going to do some weird stuff to my creasing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make these like pretty even quads, and on the back I'm just going to tap to get the same. And I can go through here. I can try doing like a group by normals just to do this. So I can go through here. I can say uncrease all, crease polygroup. That'll crease this midline, but that's might be okay because in the reference it kind of looks like that's creased anyways, and that'll get my creasing back to about where it should be. And now when I go through here and I want to sculpt, I still can. But again, this is a dynamic preview. So it'll do it, but you may want to go down here. So when I have D for dynamic turned on, that's just a preview. I can go here and apply those. So now it's real geometry and I got real subdivisions. So I can go through here and I can do, let's crank up our lazy radius a little bit. And we can maybe go through here and kind of indicate, I'm going to turn my Z intensity back up, kind of indicate a little bit of stretching along here. So not quite sure what that would be. It's kind of like a mouth or an eyeball. So maybe some lines going like this way can maybe indicate, you know, this head's kind of pushing out of that orifice there a little bit. A little bit creepy, but I think that's the whole point. And we'll stay away from those sides a little bit. Let's go and turn our floor off here. All right. So we've got everything in our scene that we need except for the body pieces. So for the body, if you don't want to go through the whole, like put it in a folder and stuff like that, these should all be, you know what, these have real subdivision levels, but you know what, we can just say delete higher. I'm not going to, or you know what, we don't even need to do that. We can keep our subdivisions, but when I merge these, which so I'm about to do, is do a merge visible. So under subtool, merge visible is going to put out a merged version of this. I can't reconstruct now because it'll want to reconstruct these, but these aren't reconstructible. They're about as low as they're going to get, but I can fix that. So yeah, let's go ahead and bring these all in. So I've merged all these, so they're all one subtool. So now I can go to our working scene and say append, and then it'll drop that down here at the bottom, and now we have this merged body here. We can go ahead and, you know, if we turn on transparent, you can see this is all we need. So now I can go through, if I want to, I can hold down Control-Shift and then Control-Shift-A to grow visibility, grow all. And I can just grab these, or if it's all one poly group, let's go ahead and split these out. Now we've got the arms, and now we've subdivided this once. We can just hit Reconstruct. Maybe one of these didn't. Let's see, Control-Shift-A, split, Reconstruct. Mesh contains triangles. Split, Reconstruct. Huh. I guess all of these. Oh, you know what? We did have a subdivision history on it. I mean, these are low enough to where it doesn't really matter, but that's interesting. I could have sworn we had a subdivision on those. No big deal. So I'm going to merge those back, and we've got the arm segments here. So we got this going. We got this going. Let's hold down Shift to smooth. And again, we can kind of play around with this a little bit as needed. So, cool. Cool. Hey, from Australia. I'd better model that panel in Fusion. Yeah, you can model it in Fusion. I would suggest if you want to have a little more reusability, if you don't want to constantly be going back into Fusion, is either converting it through MOI, just so you can have accessibility to the edge loops, because what's going to end up happening in production, it's fine if you do it in Fusion and you never touch it again and you want to bake from it and stuff like that. It's not fine if you're in production and somebody has to come in behind you and do fixes, or you want to do variants. Having a Fusion file sitting there, it's not the most accessible thing. If you have a very good Fusion pipeline in your studio and everybody knows Fusion very well, it's not that big a deal. But if you're dealing with other studios or other outsourced companies or other people in your studio who don't use Fusion that much, that can become a nightmare very quick. Not a nightmare, but like not as flexible as you might like. I feel like ZBrush is a little bit weird when it comes to polygon modeling. That usually comes from people who don't use ZBrush for polygon modeling. And again, when you talk about polygon modeling, it's basically like, oh, you know what the best polygon modeler is? I like this polygon modeler because I can go in here and I can do this, and I can go in here and I can like slide an edge. And I'm like, well, I mean, 90% of polygon modeling is the most basic stuff you're ever going to do in 3D. Now there is some fancier stuff you can do for sure. There's like modifier stacks, and there's a little bit non-destructive stuff you can do. But as far as just like pure inset, bevel, stuff like that. And there's a lot of tricks in ZBrush. I think when people first start in ZBrush, the only thing I like ZBrush for poly modeling the most out of any other program is the ability to very quickly grab like polygroups for select, like instead of selection sets, I can go through here and just grab these things. And I can also reset them, or I can go through here and I can paint a new polygroup. And it's very easy to kind of go through. And well, also QMesh is also another one I like a lot if I want to use QMesh to kind of go through and get rid of pieces really quickly, or extrude pieces, or snap them together. That's a lot easier in this program than a lot of other ones. But it also, you know, you can't do n-gons in ZBrush, so there is some downsides. It's not as flexible in certain situations, but that's just navigating ZBrush is really just practice. Anything, like, you know, me going in here and be like, oh, I want to grab edge loop mask borders right there. If you're setting up your new stuff, you're going to be going through here, and you're going to be going blind, going through these menus, and you're not going to know what to use. So just like any program, it's going to be overwhelming at first, where you're like, I don't even know where to begin, or what to use, or even the best way to maybe go about. You know, for here, I can go through here and like polish by features to clean out or to clean up that edge a little bit. And if you're not aware of that it even exists, then you know you're going to probably go the hard way and go through and try and like, you know, manually do this. You can even do a smooth polygroup border in that instance. Let's go ahead and drop down. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go into solo mode here. So it's not necessarily. It's really just kind of, I don't know, the best way to get over those hurdles, but really just practice, which is the good news. It's not inherently difficult. It's just because whenever I start a new program, I'm all thumbs. I feel like I'm a toddler again, learning how to walk. But it's usually short-lived, and the more programs you learn, the shorter-lived that feeling is. I think there are some where I mean, I still feel like a toddler kind of in Houdini, but that's more of a me thing, and I don't really practice that much. So what do I expect? And even Blender, you know, I was in Blender for a bit, and then I had to stop for a while, and then, you know, going back in, I'm like, oh my god. Even having the wrong axis while I'm in Unreal and in Blender, I'm like, it's a little bit painful. Or even Fusion 360's navigation's kind of like, oh wait, what is it? Alt and spacebar, and then it takes me a minute to get back into it. But ZBrush is objectively slower than other programs when it comes to sub-D modeling. False. How did you paint the polygroups in ZModeler like that? Just click and drag on the polygroup, a single poly? Yeah, just Alt tap. So you go through here and you hold down Alt, and you can go through and you can just kind of paint those polygroups. So yeah, instead of doing like a face selection, or, you know, I'll do a face selection over here and I'll do an inset, this polygroup here, and then I'll do another face selection over here. I can group by normals, and while I'm painting, I can hold down Alt and then tap Alt and just get a new polygroup here, and then go ahead and inset. And then you have access to these. Now this is its own polygroup here, so you can again insert polygroup. You can do QMesh polygroup island, and, you know, you can go through here. You can QMesh this one out, QMesh this one out, or this one here, or this edge ring right here, and those will stick together if you QMesh those because they're right along the same border here. So it's a little bit faster. I don't know of another sub-D modeling program that would necessarily set these selection sets for you and have them visible and available for you. So in this instance, it's a little faster. Now, is it also a little bit slower in some other things? Sure. But like, you know, like QMesh, you know, that kind of QMesh functionality, I don't know that it's all that available. And if you want to like bridge these, or, you know, say like delete a single poly here and here, and you say you want to like bridge two holes here and here, you, you know, bridge them out, so. A lot of cool functionality in there. Do you have any tricks for overcoming the initial frustration of learning a new software? Not really. I'm trying to think of, for me, I suppose it's, I have to, I'm the kind of person, I'm slow. I have to do everything a million times before I get it. So, not that I can't be kind of a fast learner, you know, but I just have to do things a lot in order for it to stick. And I also, if I spread myself too thin doing a lot of different programs or a lot of different, or honestly, I don't do a lot of asset creation. So I'm slow when it comes to, you know, just making things. I don't ever do that anymore. So I need to get back into that. Do it a lot, I think, is my only advice, unfortunately. At least for me. Some other people are really good and fast, and they don't, you know, maybe they have another way to do it. There's a lot of commands that you need to press Shift or Alt or ZRemesher Alt. Do you have a video for these types of actions? Not all in one video, but I have the basics of ZBrush we talked about earlier, that ZBrush for ideation. So, you know, going through the basics, and if you have access to all the videos, let me see if I even have those. Yeah, so here's all the videos in that series. It goes through a lot of ZBrush stuff as far as like a quick sheet. I don't have a quick sheet for all of that stuff, but I think the help docs do. ZBrush Pixelogic help docs. Why does ZBrush give you inaccurate results when I set the curves properly and bump up the curve strength as well? It kind of depends on how complex your surface is. So anything that might be kind of difficult to resolve for a human being is going to be kind of difficult to resolve for ZRemesher. It's not a you know, it's not AI or machine learning algorithm. It's just an algorithm that kind of looks at edges and stuff. I also don't generally use curve strength to do ZRemesher stuff. It'll be more of a make polymesh 3D here and go through here and base primitive and plug this in here, and we'll say split mass points, or yeah, it's fine, split mass points. Let's shove this down. I'll go ahead and chop this out. So I'm going to do live Boolean here. And on this one, if you're going to Boolean these together and want ZRemesher to work well, I might consider going through here and doing a, so you're going to crease and then turn on dynamic, and then you'll get a nice smooth. And in fact, we can put dynamic on for this one as well. So this is going to be our Boolean result. And then I can go down here and we can say Boolean dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh. And then for ZRemesher, you can manually retopologize this, or, you know, there's a lot of plugins you can use in other programs where you can like find these edges and, you know, kind of do a little bit of a more non-destructive thing, like Houdini's one of them as well. But you can go through here, and now these up here, instead of putting a curve there to kind of control, I'm just going to use polygroups. So this one, for instance, I'll just, I can isolate this, and I can say group by normals. So now I've got polygroups here, and then when I go to ZRemesh, I can say, you know, whatever the target polygon I want to be. Adaptive size can probably be pretty low since I just want nice quad geometry. On this one, in fact, I don't even probably need to do this because Booleans give me a very nice sharp transition. So I can probably just say detect edges and then ZRemesh this, and it'll go through and give me the polygroups that I need. And then on this one, I can just dial in what resolution I want. It'll start kind of failing around here, and I can go through and recap these as needed. But, you know, it kind of depends on how complex your surface is. If your surface is very complex, it's going to have a hard time, just like you would have a hard time manually going through and like resolving a bunch of edges that are overlapping complex surfaces. If it would take you 3 hours to properly, you know, resolve a surface, and ZRemesh does it in 45 seconds or 10 seconds, but it gets something a little bit wrong, you can take that 10 seconds, use the geometry, modify the geometry, get it done in 5 minutes, as opposed to taking the 3 hours to do it. But that's kind of up to you as well, if you want a total control or not, or if, you know, it may have more extraneous geometry in here, or like these caps, you can go through here and say delete hidden and go through and do, you know, close convex hole. Just recap these like so. But yeah, and even on here, it went ahead and increased it for me. But again, I'm using polygroups to define where I ZRemesh. So if it didn't find the edges very well, ZRemesher, keep groups. I'm gonna turn smooth groups down to 0 because the groups are already pretty smooth, and then you can just ZRemesh based on polygroups. And then now we can go in here, we can do like crease PG, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, and now we've got more of a sub D resolve surface. And again, it may not be perfect, but if you want to resolve these surfaces perfectly, you can leave them Boolean and then you can render it with a curved edge shader if you want. So, cool. Looks like I'm getting a little bit behind. If you have normal brush, an example reverse, workaround for collapsing edge ring to middle. You can go through and you can say insert multiple edge loops, and that'll put a line right through the middle, and then you can go through here and say collapse poly loop to that middle. Yeah, the streams are always backed up on my YouTube channel. So under YouTube here, you'll see here's my live stream, past live streams, and if you want the playlist for that, my playlists are a little bit more organized and just kind of going through. So here's live stream full episodes, and then you just go through here. Here's all the live streams we've done in the past. Cool. Thank you, Bertram. Did I get everything? Oh, new Houdini tutorial. I actually have one. I think it was, I'm kind of sitting on it for some reason. I need to go back and maybe update that, but I can give you the link to it. That's under here, live stream Houdini auto game res. So here's kind of an updated Houdini auto game res with a few plugins that might be kind of fun. You can check that out. Again, it hasn't been released because I'm still waiting on something, but check that out. Z key is hard-coded for turning on Spotlight, or is it possible to reassign it? Oh, texture, Spotlight, Spotlight, on and off. So turn on Spotlight is right here, Shift Z, and then as far as toggling it with Z, I'm not positive where that is. I'm not sure. I do have an extrude to have the loops on both sides and then connect it with the curvature I want. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Oh yeah, that Eat3D, this goes way back. But if you want to go back through history, the old Eat3D stuff, I think I have it in here. Yeah, there it is. This Eat3D Cowboy. Oh, this is like ZBrush 3 or 3.5, 3.1, I think. All those old dudes. It's been a while. Been using ZBrush for too long. Cool. All right, so we got all this. We're going to say delete this out of our scene. And we're going to go back in here. So let's, okay, we got this here. We don't need all this. So I'm going to say delete all, just to kind of clear these out. So I have my working palette up here, and I don't want to get too complicated up here, so I'm going to delete this out of here. And then the head we already have merged, so I'm going to say delete all. Of course, you can save those subtools out separately, which I do have. If I go in here to load tool, you're going to see I've got the body and the head and the body pieces still in their own files if I need to go back to them. But I think we're in good shape. So, and in fact, while we're working on this one, let's go ahead and save as, and we'll go ahead and say this scene 01. So let's go ahead and start making this body and also setting up the scene. So let's go ahead and say, let's turn everything back on. Just hold down Shift and turn on the eyeball. I'm going to grab these Aang face transpose sets here, and we're going to move this head out. And let's go to Unmesh Mesh Center. Here, let's Alt Tap this so we can turn off X, go to Unmesh Mesh Center, reset the world, turn X back on. So now I've got his head, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate him around 180 degrees with X turned off so it doesn't do anything crazy to his face. Hold down Shift, we can snap it 180 degrees, and this is about where he's going to end up. So let's go ahead and make his body real quick. So how are we going to do that? Let's do Q, Alt, S, and then W, turn off Move Multiple. So we need a body for him. And it can be pretty simple. Let me see if I have, okay, good. So I've got his body here, so we can kind of set this up really quickly. I can use a mannequin for his body, or I can maybe use the Z subtool here. Let's go ahead and turn off live booleans as well. So let's go into our comma key. I'm going to go into tool, and I'm going to grab the Z humanoid here. We kind of use this as a basis for our body, and we'll simplify it a bit. But again, you can use Z spheres for body blockouts. It's all up for grabs. And on this one, I'm going to go insert. So instead of append, I'm just going to go to insert. It's going to put that subtool right here. And again, I can clean this out of my palette here. Don't need to see it. And then, okay, let's go ahead and we'll have our head on and our body on. So we'll just turn all these off. And then, so when I brought the Z body in, you're going to see he's very, where is he at? He's kind of, I don't know where he is actually. So I'm going to go to Deformations, Unify, and that'll put him in the middle of my scene so I can at least find him. It's speaking of, if you're ever going from like Marvelous Designer or anything with a unit scale and you want to set ZBrush to that unit scale, go to Marvelous Designer, export as an OBJ or an FBX, probably OBJ out of Marvelous Designer, import that into ZBrush, and that'll ensure that underneath your ZBrush size, it's set to about 2. And then your export will change, or your export values here will change to whatever it needs to be in order to be compatible with most of ZBrush's tools and functionality, so you're not caught in a weird state. So here, we don't need this head anymore, or the neck even. So you know what? That's all set up in like nice little polygroups here. So it's very quickly I can go through here and get rid of any extraneous stuff that I don't need. And then we can say delete hidden. We can go through here and you know what? We can just do a quick geometry modify topology, close holes, and that'll get us close enough. And we could, depending on what we're planning on doing, we can go through and we can Dynamesh and we can ZRemesh this, but honestly, I'm probably just going to stick with this topology. So let's go in here to texture, import, and let's go ahead and grab from that reference that body guide. Shouldn't be that heavy. And then here we're going to add it to our spotlight. And so we have multiple views, so we're going to go ahead and use all these multiple views here. Let's go ahead and drop that opacity down quite a bit, and we'll use this for our spotlight reference. So we've got our head, so we'll line our head up like so. And then we're going to go in here to movie, timeline show. I'm going to set this timeline and go to the side here. I'm going to say, I think that'll be fine, set that, and then I'll go to the back here, and I think that'll be fine, and we'll go ahead and set that. So now I can use my arrow keys to kind of go between here. So now I can Alt-tap this. Let's go ahead and turn off, hold on Shift, turn off Polypaint here. Let's go to out of X, unmesh, mesh center, reset, and now we can kind of set our body up to match the overall proportions, generally speaking. And again, I'm just going to use this more as a guide. It's going to be covered in clothing, and I'm probably not even going to bother going into Marvelous Design or anything super fancy. I don't think there's be too much of a necessity for that, but I can go through and I kind of match this. Although, you know, I'm going to use this as like, okay, yeah, that's about right. Maybe I want to scale this out just a bit. And then I'm going to put these shoulders right back out because it's going to be a lot easier to put stuff on him in an A pose as opposed to arms down at the side. Same thing for the legs here. I'm going to kind of leave those out, but it looks like the knees and the elbows and stuff are generally, I mean, he's generally human proportion. He's kind of kid proportion too, but I think, honestly, once I put clothes on this, I think it'll be fine. I think it's, again, good enough. So here's one thing we can try to do. Yeah, let's try to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this head off. I'm going to hold down Shift and shoot it to the top. And I'm going to take this body and I'm going to shoot it to the top just so I have these in their own space. So let's try doing something a little bit fun. So I'm going to take this head here and we're going to drop down to subdivision level 1. And we're going to say delete higher. And I'm going to have a hole at the bottom of his neck here. We're going to say delete hidden. And I've got this one. We're going to put a hole here, delete hidden. And we're going to merge these down. And in fact, if you want to select an edge ring, you can go into ZModeler, you can say polygroup, polyloop, and delete it like this, or you can hold down Control Shift, you can go into select lasso, and you know, if you don't need to see this anymore, just go in here to movie and show. You can still use your arrow keys to snap the camera, but you don't need to actually see the timeline there. So you can hold down Control Shift to lasso, and that'll go ahead and grab those. So you can say modify topology, delete hidden. Now we can go through here. We can say bridge two holes, and we can go ahead and just bridge these together. And let's go ahead and add some geometry. And you know what? Let's also see, do we have an interactive curvature? Yeah, so I should be able to. Maybe it's probably not going to be great. Can I pull in? Yeah, probably not. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to give myself this type of geometry so I can go through here quickly and just kind of move this in. So, very long, slender neck. And again, his body itself maybe needs to be trimmed down a little bit. Not necessarily, well, I guess we can do this. So if you want to, let's select rectangle, Control W. So if you wanted to, like, you know, I'm going to leave the fingers alone for now, just to have a little bit more, got all these toes and everything. So I'm going to grab all these polygroups here and hit Control W. So now if I wanted to, I could take these and I could do Control W. There we go. In fact, that kind of bothers me. Let's take these green ones here, Control W. So now I will have to get my details back on my face, but if I want to, I can also just have this body be separate, because again, I'm going to have a natural seam line in his clothing and stuff probably, so I can probably just leave that alone. So I can say on this point, just go ahead and say delete hidden, and then I'll just go ahead and cap this off. Again, it depends on, you know, how fancy or how exact you need to be, and I think in our case, this will be close enough. But anyway, let's go through here. So these here, these polygroups here, is what I want to trim down or slim down. So I can take this one here, and I can say, you know what, like we can even do just run a smooth. So under deformations here, there's a lot of options. You can do a polish. It's probably going to be a little heavy. You can go through here, and you can do a deflate. So under inflate, if you drag it negative, or inflate balloon, so we can kind of trim him out fairly easily, and maybe just run like a little bit of a smooth, just to kind of take you know, some of that detail down. Now the reason I didn't touch the hands is because I want to have a little more control over these bits here. I don't want to go nuts with these, so these ones I'll just do a very slight smooth on it, and then we'll go through here and maybe de-meat these palms a little bit. And you can also go through, and again, you can use polygroups. You can, I think that'll be fine though. And now we can go through here and maybe use our clay brush or clay buildup to go through. And any areas where you lost a little bit too much volume, feel free to go back and change. Or like the toes, oh no, my toes. It's not a big deal. I'm not doing naked Aang. I'm just going through and let's go ahead and turn her off. Using something really just for proportional reference. So I can go through and start putting clothes on this guy. So let's go through here. But again, feel free to do as much work there as you want. So we're going to go through here, and we're going to say, you know what, let's do a quick save. That's the 9 key on your keyboard. And now we can start putting clothes on him. So clothes look pretty basic. In fact, let me just have this eyeballing this as we go, I think. So for the clothes, we got this body here, and we can go ahead and use this. I'm going to duplicate this body off. I'm going to solo mode here. And for the shirt, let's go ahead and say, let's go just mask where we want the shirt at. Let's hit Control D to give us a little bit more resolution, or you can Dynamesh, I suppose. And we can go through your mask lasso. And the shirt, we want to go down about here. And then he's got kind of a shirt that goes over. He's got kind of 2 layers of shirts. So I'm going to say, let me think. He's got a belt, he's got an undershirt, and then he's got a kind of a flowy overshirt. And is that also true in the overall scene? Yeah, he's got kind of like that kind of a cape thing. Okay. So just for his basic shirt here, and the cape thing, you know, for the basic shirt, we don't really need that much information, honestly. I'm trying to see his neck a little bit, and I really can't see it, so we could even just do this if we wanted to. This could be his shirt here, so if I want to, we can say, let's go edge loop mask border. Under your edge loop options, let's go delete lower here, and that'll give me a nice pretty clean cut through here. So we can say delete hidden. We can say ZRemesh half down to 0, and then just ZRemesh this. And then this can be our shirt. And honestly, what I'll usually end up doing for this type of clothing is just close convex hole. I don't want to deal with like thickness or anything on this particular asset. So I can just go through here. I can even do like a crease PG and like subdivide this. But in this case, I probably just uncrease all as I subdivide just to kind of get a fall off here. And this, now we've already given it subdivision, so let's undo that so you can see, while I'm still in block out phase, I can go through here and say QMesh, polygroup all, or polygroup island's fine. Hold down shift to pull along those surface normals. And then again, just Control D, uncrease all, Control D, and then we can smooth here, and this is going to be the start of that shirt. And then this is just going to be like, his undershirt or whatever that kind of shirt that kind of folds into his belt here. And then for his belt, we'll just go back to the body here. And this is his body, right? Yeah. So we'll just go ahead and duplicate this one off. And then let's do Shift D. This one we can just slice exactly where we need it. So we can go through here. You know, it might be better to go to the side view for this, honestly. Yeah, that'll work. Let's grab the body here, and let's go ahead and give him got quite the curve to the body, so I'm just kind of alleviating that a little bit. Okay, so now, again, let's go ahead and, I guess I should have just left those so I can't see them. I'll hold down Control Shift and we'll slice where we want that belt to go. So here and here. And then for the belt here, we'll go ahead and say delete hidden, ZRemesh half, that size down to 0. We just need nice even quads. And there we go. Now we have a belt. If you wanted to smooth this out or whatever, you can. And even on this one, even on a belt, if I'm not going to be like looping this over or folding this around, there's no point in me having to deal with cloth thickness or belt thickness. So to heck with it. Let's say crease PG. See D for dynamic, crease level 2, smooth to the 3. That can be the start of our belt. So it means this shirt needs to go up here, I think. Oh, you know what? So we got our belt mesh here. Let's do Shift D. Because I moved the proxy body back, but I didn't move this body back, so we can actually match that. So we'll take this one. We got our body here. Let's hold down Control Shift, and we'll get rid of the arms here. We'll go to the side view, and we'll say, you know what? That was more of what we were looking for. So now the belt matches a little bit better. That was my mistake. I should have done that on the body first. And then hold down Control or just Shift as I pull along that poly loop here. And then we can go through and kind of recenter this. So we can turn on dynamic again. There's our belt. And then our body. We can go ahead and bring our arms back. And then we can go ahead and bring our shirt back. Thereabouts. Okay. Pants should be fairly easy too, and these are going to be kind of baggy pants, so let's do that real quick. Let's take this body here and we'll say duplicate. And the socks, I don't even think we end up seeing his feet that well, but we can go ahead. Oh, you know what? Oh yeah, he does have shoes. We can make those pretty quickly. So let's keep it easy. So we've got this duplicate here. I'm going to go ahead and say, oh, we'll go ahead and get rid of his arms here. Don't need to see him because we're going to go through and we're going to slice. And again, that slice curve I'm looking for is going to be easier to find over here on this view. So just below the knee and I don't know, somewhere behind the belt will be where his pants go. So we'll say delete hidden. And these I may not even need to ZRemesh. There's some kind of tries up here. So you know what? We'll say ZRemesh same, adaptive size down to 0, and Just kind of get some new geometry here. And again, I don't need thickness. And by that I mean going through here, QMesh polygroup, and just kind of giving it thickness. It's like, oh, okay, I got a pair of pants. Well, if you're never going to see the inside of the pants, it's a lot of wasted polygons in there and a little bit more of a headache. You know, you got to go through here and turn on backface masking for all your brushes and stuff. So in lieu of that, close convex hole and just cap it. Nothing wrong with that. Also better for 3D printing. If you want watertight meshes, just capping this type of stuff is probably preferable. Crease polygroup again, and then again we want to inflate this. So instead of inflating through the deformation menu, we can do QMesh and then just hold down Shift and kind of pull along those surface normals. Now this is going to again be baggy, so we're going to go through here and let's go to the front view here. So through here, hold down Control and say, okay, we're going to baggy this up. Go to Unmesh Mesh Center, and let's go to Local Symmetry here, and let's go ahead and kind of baggy these up. And it's going to hang here, so we can go through and, you know, gravity is going to kind of take control over here, and then it's going to come back to the middle here. So we'll hold down Shift. Let's drop my Z intensity way down, and we can actually probably go into Clay Brush or Clay Buildup and go through and again just make sure that this is kind of getting that baggy effect that we're going for, and then it kind of cinches around his knee there. Good enough. And then we'll go through here and we'll kind of pull in this. Let's go ahead and inflate down the middle here, pull those together a little bit, and then maybe move this down here. And then with clothing, as long as I didn't do, like, if this geometry got nuts, I can still go through here and I can say, you know what, give me a ZRemesh, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, same topology, and I can just retopologize this result. So we'll get more nice even quads. It did kind of give me some weirdo, not weirdo, but it didn't give me a cap. I mean, this geometry is not terrible, but if you wanted to, you can at this point say, okay, let's go ahead and close those back up. Actually, I wonder if there's a close convex hole option. I know there's a close holes that does the close concave hole algorithm, but not this one. So, and in fact, if we want to keep this one crease, this might be kind of nice to go through here and say crease as loop complete. So as we're subdividing it, it'll keep that nice and tight. And honestly, I think this is probably going to be QMesh polygroup island. Just hold down Shift and pull this up. And if we want to even, not that I would necessarily do this because I want to keep my quads nice and even, but we can go through here and say insert, multiple edge loops. Let's go ahead and say same polygroup here so I don't get anything crazy. And then you can say interactive elevation. You can go through here and you can kind of pull this and kind of round it out. But again, this is going to give you a lot of geometry here, not a lot of geometry here. So I'm probably going to tend to sculpt that in. Oh, speaking of, if you have like this kind of workflow, this kind of just general character workflow, if you go to, where do you go? Learning. So if you have an ArtStation account that has access to the learning stuff, and you go in here to ZBrush, here's an intro to ZBrush. It's 12 parts, 17 hours worth of ZBrush. Intro to ZBrush, and we actually make myself this little basketball guy, and it's basically just taking you through a bunch of ZBrush functionality just to kind of go through and make some stuff. And so I forgot about that. Okay, I'm way behind now. Oh, way behind. Okay, I'm going to go through this really quickly. So, Shift Z, button texture menu doesn't turn spotlight on. I feel like, where was that? I honestly don't remember. Probably on a forum it should. Cool. Oh, the UE5 thing. Yeah, you know, a billion polygons on a static mesh is one thing. A billion polygons on a mesh that has to deform, that's a little bit different. But I'm not one of those developers that's like, oh, give me a break. I mean, here's the thing. I have been, so when I first started in the industry as 05 when I graduated Ringling, so that was the first Xbox 360 was next gen. PS PS3. Was that the PS3? Xbox 360? That sounds right. Those were next gen. So I was like, oh, materials with material properties and normal maps. And, that was kind of the new thing for consoles, anyways. PC had been done quite a bit earlier, but we were doing that. I was at Tiburon, and it was like Madden 06 and NCAA and stuff. It was like, man, polygons are free. Just do whatever you want. And then like 6 months before you ship, it's like, okay, everybody cut everything in half because it turns out things still have to run and be optimized. Nothing's really free. But that's not to say there isn't great technological advancements every 4 years there's new tool sets that come out that basically if you're only doing the same thing as a game developer, unless you're a really really good artist, you swimming in a straight line and everybody else is kind of doing this, eventually your straight line is just you're no longer a viable you're not very viable as a developer. You got to kind of keep your head up and you got to kind of swim a little bit. You can't just swim in a straight line. So just same thing with technology is basically, it's all going to change. It's all going to get better. The tools are going to get better. And then you're still going to have people or the old guard who's going to be like, back in my day, we had, for our static environment props, we had to do this. So I'm going to make you do this. And eventually those people still swimming in a straight line become irrelevant. And usually, unfortunately, they're in like leadership positions, and if they're forcing kind of an outdated methodology or mindset, it can be detrimental to entire teams or projects. But those people usually get filtered out eventually. But again, so yeah, and the Unreal 5 demo is super exciting. There's nothing not exciting about it. Do I think that you might be getting the wrong idea if you think you can throw like a ZBrush model in there and have it run around and deform and do muscle simulations and run at 60? Of course. I don't think that's exactly what they were demoing, though. If it's basically... Now, here's the thing. If you're getting kind of worried about like, well, all of my value as an artist is to go in there and like vert massage and lay out my UVs nicely by hand, and if we don't need to do that for every static prop or like hand making collision or LODs, like this is my value as an artist, then yeah, you're probably not that useful if that's not needed anymore. So maybe learn to do art a little bit better, and that might make you... It's a little bit harder, like things that are more difficult for a robot to not figure out might be where you want to head. Now, it's not to say that eventually, machine learning and AI won't be able to make a character much better and faster than I can. That's absolutely possible. Maybe in my lifetime, but for now, that's a little bit harder than like, I'm the ultimate guy in collision, handmade collision, and nothing's ever going to happen to my job. Well, maybe, but then again, it's like, who wants to do that? And if we have a good automated solution for that, or you can just throw it into an engine and have it LOD correctly, why not? The thing that I like most about the Unreal 5 demo is the lighting and the materials. And again, you can take an absolute mediocre model and give it the nice lighting and material treatment, and it looks great. You can take a great model and have really bad lighting, no shadows, and really terrible materials, and look like garbage. So, yeah, and the static prop instance in a level is a lot different than something that goes in. But that's not to say that like a lot of people's knee-jerk reactions are, what? No, good luck with all that. And it's like, it's a tool and it's getting better, and things are getting easier, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to skip through this. And that's the other thing too, is imagine a world where you get technology that's like, hey, you know what, the UVs aren't a thing anymore, or they're under the hood, or it's PTEX, or everything about poly modeling, forget it. I wouldn't. It would be crazy, sure, but is it going to be like, I'm put my head in the sand? Of course not. Cool. Let me see. Cool. Anatomy books. Yeah, and we've had, there's actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, and again, I'm just going really quickly through the conversation, so I missed a bunch probably, but we've covered a bunch of that too. So like anatomy sculpting, body blockout, anatomy refine, creature extravaganza, anatomy, demon anatomy blockout, Ninja Turtle anatomy, anatomy. So there's a lot of fun anatomy stuff on here if you're into that. Go ahead and copy that here. How many hours have I spent in ZBrush? Like today? Or my whole life? Lighting should be about the same in my house. 15 years worth of hours. Although, no, honestly, like I use ZBrush once a month now. I don't really use ZBrush for work anymore. I'd love to, so we're looking to change that. But cool. Okay. Getting caught back up. Cloth, clothing simulations. There we go. Okay, so there's the anatomy thing. I think I'm all caught up. Sorry if I missed something. You just shout out again. Machine learning might be able to make characters faster, but not sure to have unique style and personality, and artist's subconscious signature on it. Absolutely. Any of that can be. Anything we think we are as a unique human individual who's really smart and has artistic abilities, all of that is just, it's process. So if you can write a smart enough algorithm to go through and make the same decisions I would as an artist, and then put min-max sliders or variants in that, and then have the ability to evaluate whatever that means for a machine brain, it can do it, and probably better and faster. You know, that's that kind of thing is like, we'll never have more than 5 computers in the world, and only the 5 richest countries will have them. Or germ theory isn't a thing. What a silly notion. Of course. Now that's to say, like, will Skynet? Will we still be in existence as far as human beings after that happens? I don't know. But can machines make convincing humans and then give them unique personalities and stuff? Of course. Especially if you can, you're like a million monkeys at a typewriter will eventually make Shakespeare. If you throw even if you brute force it, it will make something. And then if you're able to go through and parse the good stuff out of there, then, and not by you, an individual, but it can go through and parse. So if it can make 1.3 trillion characters, and it can pick out 10,000 pretty damn good ones in a couple minutes, then, give it time. Everything's impossible until they do it. Export ZBrush 2020 model in 2019 with subtools. You'd have to use FBX probably as your best bet for that. You're going to lose a lot though. Like anything that's your tool here that has like creasing, creasing might carry over. You can use polygons for creasing. But anything in here like surface noise or any crazy Z tool specific stuff, you're going to lose. But you can at least get the geometry out. If you go to FBX, it'll export everything with the right name and your polygroups and your polypaint. All that'll still be intact, but any Z tool specific stuff won't be. What programs do you use in your day job? Google Docs, Google Sheets. What do I do a lot of nowadays? JobVite. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't really review portfolios, but I look at a lot of them. CA's hiring. Okay, so let me pull this shirt out here. There we go. Okay, so we got our shirt here, and we got our pants block out, and now we need to put on that jacket. So let's go ahead and grab this, and we'll go ahead and, again, this is just going to be kind of a, why does it keep doing that? Settings. Autosave is off. Okay. Maybe Alt-S is telling it to save. So let's go through here. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the body off again. Shift-Z. And let's go into solo mode. So now for the shirt, let's go through here. Let's select lasso. So honestly, I think all the way through here, except for through here, and then maybe up through here will be this jacket piece here. And let's go through and we'll move this geometry down kind of vaguely into place. And in fact, let's go ahead and isolate, say delete hidden. I'm going to say you are deleted as well. So just this green poly group here. And let's go ahead and run and inflate on this geo. Because when I ZRemesh it, that's probably going to be out a bit. And let's go in here and let's clean this up a little bit. This is going to kind of confuse ZRemesher, so I could go through and I can mask the open border and Control Tab to invert that, and then we can do polish by features, and we kind of smooth those results out. Now this isn't great geometry. It also looks like there's a split up the middle. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that. You know what? Hold on. I'm sorry, my camera's a little bit wobbly. Okay, there we go. So here you can see it kind of splits all the way up here. So let's go ahead and add that in as well. So we can tell it, you know, let's just do this. Let's make it easy. These middle ones here, deleted. I can always move those closer together. So this is about what we want here, give or take. The broad strokes anyway. So we'll go ahead and say ZRemesh half, dot size down to 0. And now we've got our vest geo here, and again we can go through and we can cap. Now this one we're not going to be able to cap because it's open. It's like an open vest thing. So what I'm going to do is we'll go through here, we'll say extrude polygroup all, and I'm going to pull out here, and then I'm going to pull in here, and that's just kind of a line around his arm. Move this over. Okay. That'll be good enough. So I can go through here, I can say mask lasso. We'll grab this last edge ring through here, go to unmask mesh center, and we can say, just kind of squeeze this in just a bit. Okay. And we'll go ahead and say, let's do move. So we're going to kind of bag, again, you know, depending on the pose of the shirt is what's going to dictate the gravity. So, you know, I'll put the gravity on him as if, you know, he is just standing there in the A pose, and I can always change that if we do change the pose later. So there's the basic shirt, and then the big kind of thing around his neck here. Does it have, yeah, it has a notch at the top. So let's do that one. So this one, we kind of want to match this geometry, so I can go through and I can slice that, but you know what, let's grab this body, this trusty body we got. We're going to say duplicate one more time. Although this one, looks like we already got a duplicate here. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to duplicate this body one more time. And let's go through here and we'll say slice. Right through here. And that'll at least give us that lower bound. So we'll say delete hidden, let's ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0. So that gives me that shape here. And now if I go through here and I do, let me think about this. So if I pull this out, I'm basically looking for that, just a nice transition around the neck. And oh, thank you. And I want to kind of extrude that straight up. And it doesn't even really, it kind of fits more on the jacket here, so let's try that. Let's go through here and we'll say Q or extrude polygroup all, hold down shift. Oops, mirror and weld. Oh, LSIM off. Okay, fine. ZRemesh half. So extrude polygroup all, hold down shift to kind of pull this along that surface normal just to get it on top of that jacket a bit. So it's going to follow the contours of his shape here, but I also wanted to go kind of just straight up as opposed to following this. So, I mean, I guess we could do this as well. We can go through insert single edge loop and just simplify this shape. And then we can grab this one here, these, go to unmask mesh center, and go ahead and follow this here a little bit, and we'll say, let's kind of scale this out so that kind of matches what we're looking for. Oh boy, hold on. So, Or some tricky geometry back here. And let's turn on X symmetry here. So this, let's go ahead and let me see, ZRemesh half. I'm just trying to get a very simplified shape here. All right, well, you're going to force me to clean it up. I'll clean it up. Collapse, edge. I can just simplify this to a, and looking at this now, maybe even just doing a cylinder would probably be a-okay. Let's go ahead and turn off double. And collapse this down and say delete edge here. And we can say split edge here. And then say delete edge here. Now let's do this. Let's do bridge these 2 points, and we'll delete this edge. Delete that edge, and then we'll split this edge. There we go. And then delete. So U and U. There we go. So now, got a little bit nicer geo here. Still follows the contours of my body. And now it'll be a little bit easier to go through and grab these ones here. And again, unmesh mesh center. And scale this out. Rotate this up a bit. Somewhere here. Close enough. We'll go ahead and lower this down a bit. And is it back up in the back far enough here? Okay, so this is another piece of geometry that's going to have some thickness, and it looks like it's also down the middle. We're going to say just bevel as the complete, and then we're going to say just delete a single poly here. So something like that. We can close those up at the bottom. I think we're good enough. Okay, so now that we've got the overall shape in here, we need to make sure this is nice even geometry. So I'm going to insert multiple edge loops, and we'll just kind of put in some geo here. We'll hit Control W, and now let's give it some thickness. So we'll say QMesh polygroup all, and we'll pull out, and then hold down Shift, and we'll pull in, and we'll say crease PG. We can turn on dynamic crease level. Let's just do a crease tolerance here. Yeah, so let's say crease level of 1, smooth set of 3, and that'll be the start of that. And even on the dynamic here, we can go through and kind of just start making the big folds through here. So yeah, there's the big folds. And I can do Shift-D to turn off dynamic, but we can leave it on for now. If I'm going to do really precise folds on there, I need to change that. Now this looks like it balloons out a little bit, so we'll go ahead and just kind of knock that out a bit. I don't mind it gravity playing a larger role, but I don't want it to look like it's stuffed with cotton or anything. And I think once we start doing the folds, it'll look a little less like that. So one more sanity check here. Close enough. All right. Got coffee now. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Would you say you need to do life drawing class to get good understanding of anatomy, or other sources like anatomy figures, statues, reference is good too? Both. You can use life drawing anatomy is great for surface anatomy, and surface anatomy and having an understanding of what's going on underneath the surface is also really important too, just to kind of help you see through and understand, like, hey, that's a ligament and that's a bone, and muscle origin and insertion kind of dictates where striations goes and stuff like that. So which one's more important or which one's better to start with, that I don't know. There's much better people at anatomy out there who could probably answer that question. But the short answer is both, but that's an easy answer. Just like if you ask me, what program should I use to 3D model? All of them. Why not? You know? Even sleep, or is that part of the ZBrush wizard code? Oh, I sleep all the time, Rob. You know me. In fact, I mostly sleep. So here's another AI trick you can do is when you're in your Zoom meeting, you can record yourself looking really interested, and then you can put a sock over your camera, and then you can just say run background, and you'll sit there and you'll loop through a really interested animation of yourself, and then, man, go take a nap. Just pray they don't ask you a question. Unless you can make an algorithm that'll reply in chat being like, my headphones were broken, sorry, whenever it hears your name. Yeah, so like pre-drag says, in fact, I can, if you go to, boy, where did I go with all my pages here? Let's delete and close all that stuff out. Oh, there it is. So when we were talking about the ZBrush for ideation in here, if you go here to the ZModeler, let me see, ZModeler Basics. There's also ZBrush and Dynamic Smooth Subdivision. So 32 and 33, the videos on here, super useful. And you could do this one, but also playlists here. It's also on my YouTube channel. So if this one's easier, this full playlist here, 32 and 33, I think, same numbers on here. Although I think these get a little bit messy. That'll walk you through like, yeah, how ZModeler works and kind of the basics of it, and then also how you use dynamic subdivisions in order to do that. What's your advice when it comes to freezing subdivision levels and then reconstructing them? I pretty rarely do that. Usually what I'll do instead is like if I wanted to add horns to his head and I've got geometry on here, you could go through here, for example. I guess we just show it. Let's duplicate this off and shoot at the top and everything else. So if I want to add horns to his head, one way you can do this is you can go down here and you can say freeze subdivision levels. It'll drop down to subdivision level 1, and you can say I want to put mask pin, X symmetry. I don't want to change my geometry, but I just want to put horns on them. So I'm going to say Control W, or you know what, we could do our edge loop mask border. A little bit of a smoother result. It kind of changes my polygroups, but I don't think it makes anything worse. So then we can go through here and we go into our brush, IMM, dragon bones, and on these dragon bones here you have horns, and on the back of these horns is a hole. So anything with a hole in the back that you draw over a certain polygroup, you can control drag again, and it'll interpolate that geometry correctly for you. So that's Mesh Fusion. So if you want more on that, just Google Mesh Fusion. I'll give you some of that. So now we have this, but now where's the detail in my head? I just do go out of freeze subdivision levels, and then it didn't do a perfect job around here, but that's okay. We can go through here, smooth intensity back up, and you can even drop down. So you got your subdivision levels back, you've got new geometry, and you've got horns on his head now. So now what I would probably end up doing is, instead of doing all of that, and it's fast, and that's why it's there. However, what I might end up doing is going back here to where we had this, and instead of freezing our subdivision levels, I'll go here and I'll say delete higher, and that'll do the exact same process. I'll go through here. This time we'll just hit Control W. We'll just go ahead and drag these horns out. Let's grab a different pair of horns this time. That's another. Here's those ones still have holes in the back. Oh, you know what we could do? BI brush insert body parts. And we can grab an arm that has a hole in the back. So there we've got a little pair of arm horns there. So now that I have this, and I've got these two polygroups, so I Control W so you can see that a little bit better. Now I can just project my detail back. So if I have, you know what, I don't have, oh yeah, I do. So now I have, my details are right here. So I've got this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get rid of, I'm going to say put these arms all in one polygroup here so it's easier to get access to. So I'm going to hide these arms, and I'm going to say project history. And then I'm going to say subdivide up, and I'm going to hide these arms, and I say project history. Subdivide, hide these arms, project history. Bring everything else back. Subdivide, hide the arms, project history. So I can get my details back where I need it, and then I have that geometry that I could go through on subdivision level 1. So I've got everything back that I need. I've got subdivision history, I got my details, and now I have arm head. I'll go through here and we'll like, if this is like stretching out of his skull, my So that's how I would kind of maybe do that. Cool. After an hour of work in ZBrush 2020 1.3, I get an error abnormal termination when I use the move or ZModeler. That sounds like what you can do is you can go into Pixelogic and submit a ticket. If it's something to do with hardware configuration, that's well above my pay grade. Intro to ZBrush, 3 volumes, and then the ZBrush for ideation. If you want to just start out, so actually, this explains all. So this video right here, right at about 2018 image-based lighting, if you wanted various project streams. Now, but at the end of a ZBrush-centric series, I don't really stress 60, so include all of these. Now, you may be asking, what about my previous Intro to ZBrush course? Now, you may be asking, what about my Intro to ZBrush course? So I'm going to go ahead and share this starting at 6 minutes in. And that'll explain, like, there's nothing wrong with it, and you can actually get caught up for free. Or if you like it nice and organized, then this series is probably for you. But if you're just starting out in ZBrush, just, you know what? You don't even buy my stuff. What are you doing? Don't waste your money on me. Go through, watch the intro, and then you can Google any functionality you want. And in my playlist here, there's like in ZBrush 2020, what's new? ZBrush 2019, what's new? ZBrush 2018, what's new? Same thing on my ArtStation page, if that's a little bit easier to look at. ZBrush 4R8, what's new? So if you learn the basics and then go through those, that's a good chunk of ZBrush. You know, and you don't have to pay for anything. Yeah, Houdini for Auto UV. So yeah, in the Houdini series that I sent out earlier, Rhizome UV is a plugin for that. You can use it standalone as well. But how can I animate wrinkle maps according to the blend shape? That would be with layers. So the blend shape thing that we sent out, and also animating wrinkle maps, you might like this too. We talked about this last time, I believe, but this Marvelous Membrane, so we actually use Marvelous Designer and blend shape layers to kind of go through, and we simulated cloth based on the direction or the avatar. We made avatar blend shapes in Marvelous Designer, so as I'm going through, I can like say, hey, simulate this cloth at this pose. So we're going to go through and simulate down. So let this simulate in. So that's the wing folding, right? So you can go through here, and then you can bring those in as layers in ZBrush as long as you don't change the point order. And then through here, you actually have the ability to kind of go through and flap your creature wing and use this as an insert mesh brush. Depending on the pose of your character, you can go through and pose this wing out. So same thing, blend shapes. And then if you do want to know more about just like blend shapes, and the Maya plugin is good for that. You don't have to use it with Maya, you can just use it as a blend shape organizer. Just type in blend shape, and then here's the blend shapes plugin. And this has layer functionality. It's nothing too fancy, but your general linear interpolation blend shape stuff, it's all in there. Conform one mesh to another that doesn't rely on the camera viewport using Z project brush and Z project. I'm getting a fair bit of warping and trying to conform ornate flourishes to a skull. The one that relies on camera is mesh matcher. What is it? Mesh. So let's go through. It's a delete lower, delete higher. So for instance, I mean, if you have an insert mesh brush for it, so we go to BI brush insert model toolkit. And you have anything fancy. Now you're going to need to make sure you have enough geometry resolution. In fact, just do this. Let's go to a plane here. We want to put something more ornate on it. So we're going to say divide. Oops. Make polymesh 3, divide. Go in here to transform, activate symmetry in the Y radial count. Nope. In the Z radial count. Geometry, delete lower, and we go through here and we can be like, oh, here's my fancy design. Something ornate, right? And we can go through here and, you know what, let's drop this down, say transform, and we'll say radial count of 8. Hold down control. You could use Spotlight for this as well, but let's say this is what we want. So Control W, or our trusty edge loop mask border here. And we can isolate this and say delete hidden. You can do an extrude or an extract from this. I try to do like a ZRemesher just to get some decent geo. It may not always work. So error. Let's turn off X symmetry. That'll probably help. And if it ever does error out on you a lot, go to mesh integrity and say fix mesh. That'll get rid of any floating verts and maybe help you out a little bit. So here's our ZRemeshed version of this. And if you want to, you can be like, you know what, that's not really working for me. So let's say delete here, and we can kind of mesh that back into shape. So we've got a complex thing here, and we've got X to extrude, polygroup all. And we want, of course, do our crease PG, crease level of 2, smooth to of 3. And we got a nice ornate thing here, but of course flat. So brush, create insert mesh, new. And so the camera-based thing we were talking about earlier, this is our duplicate. Yeah, that is just our arm head. So we were talking about, here, if you wanted to use camera-based, so we can say split mask points here, you could go set your camera here, do brush matchmaker BMM, and then just click and drag, and that'll use matchmaker to kind of conform it to the surface. Of course, at this point, if you already have, say, go ahead and just delete that out of our scene here. Oh, deleted the wrong one. Let's grab our head here. So back to this head here. If you already have an insert mesh brush, just turning on projection strength be a little bit easier. So as long as you have the, if you decimated this and it didn't have good geometry, this wouldn't work that great. But over here, projection strength up to 100. So now as we drag this out, it'll automatically conform to the skull like this. You can also use deformers. If you don't, you can also use like a, if you want to get really crazy, I don't know how you would do it in ZBrush. Well, maybe you could do it in ZBrush. If you go into the flatten UVs and then insert your mesh and then unflatten them, that'll conform it. That would be something similar to what you could use as a, what do they call it? I'm drawing a complete blank. It's a deformer. It's a lattice deformer, but it's basically where you use your mesh as a lattice deformer, and that is in Maya called wrap deformer, I think. You can use a wrap deform to go through and like grab your verts and then like pull them into a shape using a wrap deformer. I think that's what it's called. Cool. Yeah, and I think most 3D programs do have like, hey, I want to use this mesh as a lattice deformer, and then I want to move this mesh as a blend shape and have it pull other objects along with it, weighted. I don't know how I would do that in ZBrush. That'd be something I'd have to really think about. Or there might be some trickery involved that I couldn't do. But okay, so we got this guy going, and I know I just need to do some really quick other stuff too. So, and again, you could just sculpt this. Like down here on the legs, you could just subdivide these. Kind of busted his toes a little bit there, didn't we? So let's do this. Control Shift, and we're going to go ahead and select lasso. And got a little bit of frostbite there. Yoink. Say delete hidden. And on this one, like we were talking about closing convex holes, you can close a concave hole. So we just close holes. It's not a mirrored operation, so I like to do a mirror and weld. And even this sometimes doesn't do too terrible of a job. If you want to go back through and say, you know what, let's delete every other edge, you might be surprised at the fidelity it kind of gives you. It may run into a little problem here, but again, just go through and collapse edges. So sometimes I'll use that as a quick trick to like do a quick close concave hole, and then I'll go through and I'll be like, okay, just delete these and collapse as needed, and then I have pretty much quads here. This isn't great, but you know, that's not bad, especially for something I really don't care that much about. So Control Shift, Control W, and this can be kind of my truncated foot. We'll go ahead and give him a little bit more toe reach there. So now, I don't think we're ever actually see his feet here, so I'm just going to go through and give him his socks real quick. So one more time, I know you're probably getting sick of this by now, but it's so easy. Let's hit Control W on this duplicate. I'm going to say socks go from here to where his shoes go. Let's say about here. Isolate, delete hidden, remesh half, that size down to 0. And then here, we'll say close, convex hole. Hooray. Control W. Again, crease PG. And we'll go through here and extrude and shift and pull along that surface normal. And then now we can go in here. We have crease PG, so we'll hit D for dynamic. Crease level of 2, smooth slip of 3. And there we go. Sorry. Pull this out a little bit. Looks like this front got a little bit, we lost some volume there. That's no big deal. Let's go in here with your move brush. So now we got kind of his long pants here. And I'll go through here. And again, this is just the block out phase. This kind of reminds me of going through, if you go to my ArtStation page or my YouTube channel, but there's a boot tutorial, and the boot ends up actually being just a, and it's got 18 videos in here. It's just a bunch of basic, it's kind of box modeling all the way. Like 90% of this is because ZRemesh and box modeling, then the last 5% is going through here and making the wrinkles. So you can check that out just under the boot tutorial. There's also a little JPEG in there. Shrink wrap. Maybe. I think it's a wrap deformer in Maya. I could be wrong though. It's been a while. It's actually what we used, like if you have body types. So if you have skinny, average, fat body type, and you can go through and you can make a blend shape because you're using the same topology, and then you can put a jacket on one, and you can, as you're using that blend shape, you can say, I want to use this blend shape as a wrap deformer. So take this shirt, wrap deform it to that blend shape, and as you blend to the average body, the jacket will blend with it. As you blend to the big body, it'll blend with it. I think it's a wrap deformer. Let's see. Testing my face cam. Seems to be okay. How do you approach optimizing topology to get crisp edge loops around the eyes often as part, especially after dynameshing with really ugly topology? So that, for that one in particular, I'll use polygroups for that. So face topology here. Here's how you can mask and make your topology, and then you can ZRemesh based on that. Mouth, bag, and nostrils creation. You actually go through and clean it up. Let's just do, I think, topology. We talked about this earlier this morning, but I'm trying to find the best videos for that. Yeah, I think this one is a good one to kind of go through and kind of put face topology in here. You put your edge loops in, and then when you ZRemesh it, you can kind of control how it ZRemeshes a little bit more. Oh, and as far as like, this might help too. If you go through, goodness gracious, dog. I like how she comes in here just to make a bunch of noise and then leave. So we got a sphere here, make polymesh 3D. And let's say, you know what, this is dynameshed. So we're gonna say, let's dynamesh this down. And we're gonna go through here, and on this one, you could do edge loop mask border, and that can kind of slice through a decent one. But if you just hit Control W, oops, gives you that kind of aliased look, and it's like, oh, these aren't great. You can go through here and you can say masking, mask by groups border, Control Tab to invert that, and then deformation. I like to do like a polish by features, closed circle, and that'll kind of smooth it out. Also, if you want to do it manually, hold down Shift, well, go into comma key, brush, smooth, and then smooth groups here. Say OK. So now when you hold down Shift and smooth, it'll just smooth that polygroup border. So now you can go through here and you can just manually kind of smooth out that group border. So now it's nice and smooth. Oh yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Also, we did face topology on, yeah, that Westworld thing. So under playlists here, Livestream full episodes, we kind of went through that process here, fun with body anatomy. So I think here we went through and we just kind of sculpted from scratch. We started from like a Dynamesh Z-sphere, I think, and just kind of started sculpting this dude. And then we went through and we did the exact same process. Kind of go through and polygroup and ZRemesh and project history, get our details back. And then, yeah, so there's that one as well. Oops, close that. Okay, so let's say subtool, delete that, and delete that. And now we got everything blocked out. So let's go through here now and start doing this for real. So this one right here, again, it's dynamic subdivision, so we can hit D for dynamic, And I think I had some better reference I wanted to use. Nope, I lost it. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. So now, yeah, that's cool. So this one, for example, it's just dynamic subdivision. So here's my real geometry, and I can kind of sculpt here. Instead of using that, I can hit D for dynamic, and that puts on dynamic subdivision. I'm going to apply that, so I get real subdivision history. So now I have like subdivision level 2, subdivision level 3, and so now I can go through here, and I can start, really kind of sculpting this out. If I want to like fold these corners down, I can grab a mask lasso and kind of alt and kind of hold these corners down a little bit, and then smooth it out just a bit, and go to subdivision level 4. So I also tend to over crank thickness on cloth. It's a game thing. It's a game developer thing. No, it's basically like when you're running around game and it's from this far away, you don't want it to alias to just almost nothing, so you want to kind of maybe over crank that thickness a little bit just to get it to read a little bit better. So my default is to do that. So we'll go through here and we'll go ahead and just mask this and then control tap, and then we can kind of bring this down, or opposite, we can pull this up in here. So when you're doing clothing and stuff, kind of masking and really getting these clothing to fold over each other is a good way to kind of sell it as cloth. For here, we did give it thickness because it's a vest, so I didn't want to cap the head and the arms here, although that would be my preferred method for most clothing. But depending on the pose, this shirt may flare out and flip out and stuff like that. So in this case, I'm going to have backface masking on for a lot of my brushes. Now you can have that set automatically. Where that is if you go in here to your ZBrush data? Nope, ZBrush 2020 Z Startup brush presets? Nope. Z Data. Z Data brush presets. These are your default ZBrush brushes. If you're going to mess around with these, duplicate this folder off, like brush presets backup, just in case you accidentally hose one of your brushes. So basically going through here, any changes you make, if you go through and you save over these, so like if I say standard brush, I always want backface masking on. Just go in here to brush, save as, save over the standard brush in that file location. So when you start up ZBrush, the default standard brush will have backface masking always turned on. Anyway, so we'll go through. I'm going to go through and we can do crease PG, and when I do that and I hit Control D, you see this kind of rolls a little bit. To avoid that, I'm just going to run a crease tolerance of like maybe 61. So now when I hit D, you're going to see it doesn't roll up. So when I hit Control D, giving me real subdivisions, that'll stay nice. So I'm just going to go through here. Oh, you know what? I messed up. Looking at this now. Okay, it should be an easy fix though. Let's go ahead and delete higher. This here, it doesn't have an arm here. It's a cape, like this. Duh. So let's fix that. So this, again, easy fix. We can go through here, and I just went through and I deleted all this other stuff. So I can go through here, and I can say, you know what, you I want to get rid of, and you I want to get rid of. You can also use, again, Control Shift and select lasso to get rid of these, although sometimes at those corners, it may not go all the way through. Say delete hidden. If I do an auto groups, then I'll go ahead and give those their own polygroups. So say delete hidden. And now I'm just going to go through here and I'm going to say bridge edges. So bridge here to here, and then here to here. And I'm going to say close concave hole just to give myself enough. So now we've got this. Perfect, right? Well, no. You could go through here and fix this up, but since we already know ZRemesher, let's say ZRemesh same. And now we've got a little bit better of a cape. And then we can go through here and we can, yeah, I guess we just use our clay brush. Much better. Of course, we lost our thickness, but that's okay. We can go through here and we can say extrude polygroup all. Grab our thickness back. Oops. And then in a little bit. Just hold down Shift. And then again, just run another crease, dynamic. Make sure it's creasing how you would expect. Good enough. And then I'm just going to hit Control D, and we can start sculpting this. So here, we can start sculpting our cloth. And with cloth, what you're looking for is basically like where the tension points are. So underneath the underlying geometry here is where the cloth is going to kind of hang. So with gravity coming off this guy, it's going to want to push down on whatever's underneath this cloth. So that's going to be that tension point. It's going to create tension. Then gravity is just going to kind of pull this down. So we can actually stick this right on his arm here, like so. And then, yeah, wherever, if it had like cinching through here or creasing, on here actually we can turn off X symmetry. I can go through here and I can use like move. Let's go down here. Let's go to auto masking. For our brush, turn on topological, or you can hit B, move. There's a move topological in here. It's basically this with the range set to 1.5, I think. And you can go through here and you can move this one over independently of this one, and then this one you can go through here. Let's move it behind a little bit, maybe, just because I don't necessarily want them to be on each other, but just to kind of close that up a bit. And then same thing for here, possibly when we get there, just kind of move those in a little bit, have it kind of cinched through there. On the back here, I'm not certain that this actually dips down below that much, so we can kind of pull that up a little bit. And for cloth, you know, generally speaking, cloth isn't symmetrical. If you're going to be baking it so that, I don't know, you can bake this so that you can save some textile density, I suppose. But since we're not really worried about that, we can turn off X symmetry. We can go through here and we can just kind of, you know, break symmetry a little bit. Cloth rarely hangs perfectly symmetrical. So now on this one here, we can hit Control D. And again, we're just looking for those tension points, and then where gravity is going to kind of take this here. And actually, I can take this top one here, and let's just do a polish by features. Here, we'll maintain our volumes. Let's go to mask border. We're going to mask our border here, and then run a polish by features, so we can keep these corners nice and nice. Maybe polish by features open circle. That'll actually lose our volume a bit, but it'll really polish the heck out of our surface here. So bring everything else back, and then now, again, kind of going through here and seeing. Mask border, polish by features. Sorry, this is something I should have done earlier. So now, bringing all this back, if I want to have like a lot of cloth through here, again, I'll actually probably turn back face masking off for this. So as I'm sculpting through it, is purposefully going through my clothing. So I can go through here and I can start adding, you know, these big form changes through here. Like so. So it's like kind of deforming that mesh. And then again, we'll Control D, and it's keeping this very crease because we have crease polygroup turned on. If you want to, what I'll usually do is I'll just have it on, and then I'll go through and manually just smooth. Oops, we still have smooth groups turned on. Just manually go through and smooth that just to kind of dumb down that crease here. But you can do that a little bit later. Can you do the same with brush sensitivity? Oh, what was I doing? Not sure. Had a knife tool. Yeah. You can use slicing as if you're talking about like N-gon kind of slice knife tool. You can use slice for that. But again, yeah, you're going to end up with a lot of tries. So you have to do a little bit more cleanup. Is there a way to draw new clay over the top of the geometry, sort of like painting flesh on top of a skull? Yeah, in fact, yeah, actually, I do that. It's not on my channel, now that I think about it, but if you go to my, so I put both recently, last year I've been putting my videos back on my channel, but here on the Pixelogic channel, I actually start here with a skeleton when we're doing this geometry block out. So I go through here and I start with a skeleton, and I actually go through and I kind of do flesh on top of a skull based on that skeleton. There's a lot of different methods to do it, and this is before Sculptris Pro even existed. So you can actually use Sculptris Pro to help you out there, but this can kind of walk you through that. In fact, yeah, this is the Pavlovich workshop. Every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, I go to, let's copy this whole thing. I stream on Pixelogic's channel, and I copy it to my channel, and then on the first Thursday of every month, I go to my channel. Painting geometry out of thin air on top of something. Yeah, thin air. Yeah, actually, you can. Okay, I don't know that I actually go through it on that video, but for example, let's paint some geometry out of thin air. So we're going to go to Tool, grab the anatomy model here. And we don't want any muscles, so we have the skeleton selected. I'm going to say delete other. And in fact, we just want the skull. So I'm going to grab a little piece of that skull, Control-Shift-A, delete hidden. Let's go ahead and do a deformation unify. And then on top of here, if you want to do geometry, because you can Dynamesh this and shrink it and do that, but you can also go in here to insert a Z-sphere. And then we're going to hit X to go into X symmetry. We're going to hide the Z-sphere in the middle of my skull here. So now when I go down here, you go to Z Sketch, go into Edit Sketch, and now you can actually just draw geometry on here. Now when I hit A, that's going to give me a unified skin. So that's going to show you a preview of that. So you can actually go through here. You can actually go through and do armature, and you can like go from here, this point to this point, I think, and then you can like smooth between those points. You can hold down Alt to delete points here. Oh, well, maybe that didn't work that well. You can also move these things out and they can smooth between them, like so. So if you wanted to do like this, that might be one way you can do it. In fact, I think even in here, under Z Sketch, there's a Z Sketch of exactly that. Like, let's turn off apply paint here. You can see that a little bit better. So if I've gone through here, so Z Sketch here, I can go through an Alt drag, and you can go through and see, yeah, they did basically that. They just use Z Sketch to kind of do the geometry out of error. Now, when I go through here and I hit A for my unified skin, it's going to give me that, and you can go to unified skin settings for Z sketching and check that out. But yeah, maybe that. Okay, so here, got this, and again, you got your tension points here. Oh, another thing too, you go to ZBrushGuides.com. He has a cloth sculpting tutorial in there, and he's got these cloth brushes you can use like magic fold. So let's use that on the pants here. So again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, I think I'm already creased, right? We've already done our creasing. Yeah, looks like it. Although, let's go ahead and crease PG so I can maintain that crease a little bit better. So I'm going to hit Control D. And at the top and the bottom is kind of like elastic. So let me grab, let me see, do I have any better avatar pants? And this is the kind of thing too where Marvel's Designer might come in handy for this type of thing. I'm going to be a little bit lazy and not go for it. But just kind of generally speaking, we can go through here and we're going to, make sure my volumes are where I want them. You can go in here with your move brush and kind of make sure the gravity is hanging where you want. And there's actually gravity in a brush you can do. So as we're going through here and we're sculpting, let's hit Control D. And we're sculpting here. While I'm sculpting, you see how it's kind of going along the surface normal. If you go into where do you go into? Depth? Yeah, gravity strength. So you can point this gravity in any direction you want, really, but we'll point it down. So as I'm sculpting now, it's going to kind of just pull here. Let's go ahead and crank that up to 100. So as I'm sculpting, it's pulling down as I sculpt. So you can kind of use that maybe. I don't generally do it, but it's there if you need it. So anyway, going back to magic folds. I pulled those in, right? Brush, magic folds. So this one, it's basically a VDM brush. If you want to, you can Google that and get more information on VDM brushes. But this will give you kind of a nice, go through here and you can do like the lock, half lock here. So you can go in and out. Let's go ahead and mask. Let's set up a poly group here for ourselves. Let's go in here. Let's go down to sort of in level 1. I'm going to give myself a Control Shift, invert this, Control W. There we go. Just easy access to this. So if I want to mask this quickly, I can just grab this and mask and invert that. So as I go up in my subdivision levels, I'll leave that alone at the bottom there. Just like this. There we go. So now I can do go through here, and it might be a little bit premature to do this. I don't have a whole lot of resolution here. So this is for like, my primary wrinkle forms. So again, where my tension points are and gravity, and then it's going to kind of crease and bunch. Same thing for the cloth up here. So while transparency. While this is pulling down, I may be getting some compression folds up here. So I can go through here with my magic folds. This is Pablo Munoz Gomez's magic folds. So I can go through here and I can like do my compression shapes like this. And now as this is kind of, you know, pulling here, sorry, you can kind of do this. And in fact, there's also another brush in here that'll kind of set this up for you. Oh, if you want to see this in action a little bit better, so here's X folds. You can kind of go through here and just kind of go back and forth. So here, 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 and that'll kind of break up your surface, and that'll kind of indicate like maybe where you could put, you know, kind of these compression wrinkles. So you hold down Alt to pull up and then let go. And then you can also go in here with maybe like your standard brush, your inflate brush, and kind of put some more contrast in here and go through and like mask this and invert it. Pull this down just to kind of, again, get those compression folds along the top. So there's that. And if you wanted to see that more, or I did a bunch of that kind of sculpting. ZBrush 2020, what's new? This is a little bit more organized. So ZBrush 2020, what's new? If you scroll down to this time lapse here, this is just basically a cloth guy. You know, I spent a couple hours kind of doing this and throwing in the V-Ray and stuff. So along his arms and stuff, going through and kind of detailing out. You know, and this too, you can use extractor brush to kind of get that puckering detail on your cloth. So anyway, this might be a good resource for cloth type stuff maybe. Cool. Get caught up here. Daily render trend on Instagram: create faces without any eyes, mouth, or lips. You should, yeah, and you can basically take any head that exists here. Now it kind of depends on, you know, you talk about like a hyper realistic head. You need to start out with a hyper realistic base, but there's a lot of different ways you could do this particular thing, but I'm going to hold down Shift and go into Sculptors Pro mode just so I can go through here and kind of, you know, so if you had a nice head, you could do this and then retopologize it or snap your original geometry to it, I suppose. But Hazard from Daz Studio 3D scans. Oh yeah, take a 3D scan and do the exact same thing. And then project back and then just do a little bit of cleanup work. Give it the old matrix treatment. Magic folder brushes are zbrushguides.com. And that was, yeah, magic folds. And then also, oh, well, let's keep going. So let's go say delete all. Here. So again, oh yeah, we were doing compression folds up here. So we can go through here and you can use Damien standard as well. You can go through here and like let go of Alt and press Alt. Or you can create your own VDM brushes. Just Google VDM, ZBrush VDM brush, and it'll probably show it to you. And you can use that one brush we used, or you can kind of just go through here and put your old compression folds in. And then also on these pants here, so it's going to kind of hang down through here, and then it's going to hit some compression folds here, and also get so compressed they start kind of folding over, especially when you go in here, they'll start kind of folding over each other. I'm running out of resolution here, so I'm going to say Control D one more time. Oops, or Control D, and then isolate. Another thing you can do is you can use VDMs for this. So like this VDM folds, you can actually go through and just pull in your half lock. So you can go through here and maybe use some of these to kind of break up your mesh. I'll go through there and we'll kind of tone those down a bit. Or go through and just kind of let go of Alt. seems to be wanting to fight me a bit. Let me see. And again, we're using ZRemesher because it gives us a nice predictable mesh, and it'll also be a lot easier if I want to go through and put like fabric detail on this, like I did on my what's it called? My that little weird cloth creature guy. It's a lot easier to go through and like UV this, and in fact I can put seams on this, and I can actually sculpt on this using my UVs, my UV information. So, and this, again, these are just like super baggy pants here, so it's gonna drape this cloth through here, and then once it gets through here, we can kind of, let's see if I've got a better angle on this. Alt, and then let go of Alt. And it's not going to kind of follow that geometry like this. It's going to hang generally straight. It's not going to be like bloop, like this. So gravity is going to take it in a fairly straight path. And then it's going to hit a point where it starts to buckle, and then gravity is going to pull in, and then it's going to kind of bend and crease a little bit. So, oops. And also depending on the type of cloth, how big these wrinkles end up getting. I'm going to drop my Z intensity down on my smooth. It's a little bit intense here. If you need to drop down a subdivision level, feel free to do that as well. And again, you can work on your primary forms and your secondary forms, all that good stuff, and kind of get that going. Now the puckering detail, maybe around here we could do it. So but anyway, as far as like going through and doing UVs, that's pretty easy too. We'll use our Z plugin here, and we'll go into UV master. So if I wanted to do seams or like tile something through this, I have symmetry on, I have polygroups on, which is going to be useful because I have polygroups and I have symmetry. So at least for now, of course we want to break symmetry when we're doing our folds, but for now this will be useful. So we're going to take this and we're going to say using both of these, let's work on a clone. So we can go down to subdivision level 1. So here we go. Let's just see how it does. So we can hit unwrap, we can hit flatten, and so that looks pretty good. We'll unflatten and we'll say, let me check my seams. Okay, we have a seam going right down the middle, and I may prefer that kind of going down the back. So let's say enable control painting. I'm going to protect this front area. I'm going to attract this back area. So now I'm going to say unwrap, and then check seams, and there we go. So now when I flatten this, there's my UVs. Okay, so go to unflatten here. I'm going to say copy these UVs, and we're going to take here and we're going to paste these UVs. So now I can actually sculpt on this with UVs. So we're going to go through here, start a material, turn that off. Go down here and we can say UV map. We're going to morph our UVs. So it's going to morph our UVs out. And we can go through here, and if I wanted to put like a seam in here, we can go through with our like our Damien standard brush, I suppose, and we'll crank up our lazy radius. So I want a seam down here. And then when I morph my UV out, where did that go? Morph UV here. There we go. So now, oops, you can go through and you can paint. This is also super useful for things like, if I go in here to import, grab some fabric patterns here. Go ahead and add this, and we'll say hold down shift and tile it up a bit. and then Z, go through here, and we'll just paint on our geometry like so. And Shift Z, we can morph our UVs back, and there we go. So you can sculpt and you can texture on that, but of course those are a little noisy for us. We'll go and turn that off. So you can use that for detail. And again, if you want to do, because we have UVs now, we can go in here to like surface noise, and we can go in here to like noise plug and say, give me a weave. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Let's go ahead and frame it. So we're going to say mix basic noise down to 0, and our plug-in scale, our noise plug, let's go ahead and bump up our strength here. So we can kind of pull this down a little bit, and we're going to say use my UVs, so my seams will end up along the back and along the insides. So here, we can kind of go through a little bit of fabric detail. And you can apply that to the mesh and everything like that. So Google surface noise, ZBrush, and I'll walk you through that. But I'm going to turn that off. So let's go ahead and fix this up here. You know what? Let's use here. So we're going to go through here and just kind of very broadly kind of dial in some of this. And then we'll go back into our magic folds here. This is magic folds soft. There's also magic folds hard. I'm going to use this to kind of beef up some of those here. We'll fade these transitions out so it's a little bit more natural. And we'll kind of make sure that and again, go in here with your standard brush, turn on Z-Add again, and go through here and you can kind of bump up this contrast a little bit through these areas, smooth or inflate. And is our smooth brush acting weird? Oh yeah, the intensity's down a bit. Something like that. And this is fairly, go back to my Google reference here. Those legs, oh yeah, those are like leather boots. So I'm going to leave those probably alone. And yeah, let's knock down these edges just a bit. And even on my jacket here, we can hit Control D to subdivide one more time. I'm just going to run a smooth down these edges here just to kind of knock that cloth back just a bit. This, now that I'm looking at him colored version, looks like he does have, you know, now that I see this and this is split open, yeah, this cloth isn't going to work. So let's do this real quickly. Let's go ahead and delete that out of there. Take our body one more time, duplicate it off, shoot it to the top, and we're going to say isolate this green part, which should be just about perfect, delete hidden. Go to transparency mode, hold on Control Shift, let's go into slice, and just, you know what, let's just use visibility. So I'm going to get rid of here, and it's going to go all the way down to his wrist, perfect. And you know what, it can stop there, that seems fine. Yeah, that seems fine. Okay, delete hidden, go in here, and let's go ahead and say mask our borders. Invert that mask, and we're going to say mask this out, mask this out. We're going to clean this up. So again, deformations, polish by features, and we'll go through, and now we can do a ZRemesh half, that size down to 0, and this will be my shirt. Let's do that Alt algorithm here. So under ZRemesher, hold down Alt, give me that new midline. That did a little bit of a better job, and this one I can definitely cap. So close convex hole, like so. Same thing here. And whenever I do a closed convex hole, I like to do a weld points here. Just weld points here, and let's isolate these, Control W. So I'll go ahead and do a crease PG, and then go through here, and we'll do a Q mesh polygroup ball, or an well, it doesn't really matter because if we're just holding down Shift to pull it along the surface normal, it should be fine. Like so, and then we can hit Control D to subdivide that. And now we've got his kind of his undershirt. Control D. Before we do that, let's go through here and let's go ahead and give it a little bit of overlap on this belt we got. And even on this belt, it looks vaguely clothish. So if this just has dynamic, we'll go ahead and apply this and go through and also divide one more time. And we can just give an indication, even if it's a leather belt, and go through here and we can kind of just give it a little, you know, the bigger or the heavier the cloth, the bigger the wrinkles are going to be. So we'll just kind of give an indication that there's, you know, some movement in there. Now this shirt in here, let's go ahead and kind of give, again, it's just going to be tension points. So Control D, Control D, here. So again, you get cloth folds where this thing's kind of coming down, and then it's going to hit this where it kind of bunches up over the belt, and then we'll go ahead and turn off X symmetry. And then even through here, it looks like it's fairly skin tight-ish, or it's heavy, it seems maybe. So I don't need to put a whole bunch of stuff in here, but if you want to kind of go through and where it kind of and this is these really heavy folds are a really good place to kind of go through and like maybe mask through here. You can use mask lasso or just do a mask pin here, and maybe we'll fade that out, just Control tap and really kind of pull and inflate this geometry a bit just to get it kind of overlapping. Same thing with these, you know, they're not really interacting very well with these little bottom parts down here, so you can go through and just like mask or like mask lasso here, and then just kind of really let gravity take hold and kind of invert this and pull these up. So now you get a lot more overlapping through these areas here. Okay, so this, we've got his cloth shirt here. Let's go ahead and we can, you know what, we can just run an inflate brush along here, and then we'll smooth this out. It does look like on his wrist here, it does kind of flare out a bit, so you can kind of indicate that a little bit. And then again, inflate here, and we're going to have a little bit of a tension point here, or on the opposite side of tension points. So if we go through here and we say, let's do our X folds here. So if we're going to have a little bit of compression along the top, that might be a little heavy. On the opposite side of that, I'll probably have a little bit looser folds. But again, this is pretty skin tight, so I'm going to keep it fairly benign. And you can kind of get radial twisting too, depending on the pose. You can have like cloth kind of twisting around the arm. In this case, probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm going to pull this out. And this, again, this default pose here. We go in with our standard brush. And again, just indications of let's go in here and we'll kind of smooth this out. Now, you could go through and get symmetry on this side, but it's going to get symmetry down the middle. I guess we could do this. So this will be a little bit weird, but if you want, you can go down here and you can say story morph target. If I want to copy these wrinkles to this side, you can go here, you can hit go out of X symmetry. And as long as your mesh is originally symmetrical, you can go through here, we'll mask the side we like, and we'll say, go to deformations, and we'll say smart resim. So that'll give me this. Now this down the middle, it gave me symmetry, which I didn't want. So we're going to go into our morph brush now, and we're going to say, let's morph this back to what we had originally. So now I've got these wrinkles on both sides, and then we can morph back. Let's go ahead and say the intensity up. Oh, I guess we kept that vaguely symmetrical. There we go. So now you can have X symmetry turned on while we're working on the arms, and then turn it off while we're working down the middle. And then yeah, for these legs, these are like leather, it looks like. So we'll go ahead and apply this. And again, we'll just go through here and inflate. And I don't think we're going to see the shoes, so I'm just going to leave those alone for now. And let's give little... And for the body here, so we have a body just sitting underneath, and it's just kind of a placeholder. I think it'll work fine. Let's grab this cloth shirt though. So as it goes up to the neck, that looks a little bit much. We'll use our Damien standard or our magic folds, and we can kind of turn our smooth intensity all the way back up. Or if we need to, if again this is like more of a primary form thing, just drop down to subdivision level 1. Go in here with our clay brush and fix this. A lot easier to work on fewer polygons than it is lots of polygons. There we go. So here. And then this here, we'll go ahead and just shift to smooth that. We can actually probably pull this in quite a bit. You can also use smooth. There's some other smooth brushes in here you can use. So we'll go back to brush, smooth, and you can do smooth parallel and smooth perpendicular. Let's try, smooth direction, sorry, not smooth parallel. So if we go through here and smooth direction, it'll smooth, but also maintain that volume as long as I'm pulling along that direction here. So you can use that to kind of go through here and smooth along a wrinkle without losing the volume. If you go the opposite way, it'll just obliterate it, but smooth directional will kind of maintain that a little bit better. Do Google ZBrush Guides cloth. Drapery one, yeah. Oh, and if you are splitting stuff off, what I'll do a lot of times, I'll do a quick save, and then I'll go into my quick save folder and just pull up the last quick save I have, so this one here. And that'll kind of dump my memory, and on here. That was weird. And kind of bring everything back. So if I'm doing a lot of splitting, I'll tend to do that quite a bit. So let's do really quickly, let's turn our poly paint back on. And let's select this body, hit Control D. We'll Control D one more time. You know what? This is a little bit sad. So let's go through here and we'll do a, just very quickly, we'll give him a little bit of bony landmarks. You know, I'm not going to make him have witch hands or anything, but you know, kind of so he doesn't have noodle fingers. We'll go through and give him some clay brush knuckles here. And on the hand, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but you'll generally have, since we have bones and ligaments on the top, that'll end up being flatter. So we'll go through and we'll kind of flatten with H-polish this, and then on the undersides, it'll be rounder. So let's turn our Z intensity down quite a bit. We'll go through, again, just giving him some indication that there's structure underneath his noodles. And then on the bottom here, we can use our Damien standard to kind of go through. And let's turn lazy mouse off. So we'll go through and kind of, so anywhere we can kind of indicate that he has a little bit of form, especially where you can see it, which is basically his hands here. Kind of help him out a little bit. Now this knuckle is getting a little bit gnarly, so we'll Actually, let's go back to smooth. I forgot I had smooth directional on. So we'll go back to our smooth brush and then drop the C intensity down. There we go. So again, this, and I don't think we need to add nails or anything. So I'm going to sample, just hit C to sample this, and then here, and we can also just drag off and sample this mRGB. So mRGB with a standard brush, color, fill object for his hands and his body. And then for this, let's do our old trick we did before. Let's go in here to texture, import, and we'll grab this one. So texture, put it, we'll do it like we did last time. There's a couple different ways you can do that. This one is fine. So we'll take a plain 3D here, go edit, make polymesh 3D, go down here to texture map, select this texture. I've hold down shift, make sure have RGB turned on, so when I hold down shift and do poly paint, I can say poly paint from texture. That'll give us the right aspect ratio, and then we'll go ahead and turn our texture back on. And then if I want to make sure, I mean, its sampling should be fine, but if you want to play it extra safe, just go in here to flat color, and then go out of edit mode, and then I'll just leave that there. We'll go back here, and we'll switch back to our Skin Shader 4 is probably fine. And on this one, you know what, let's just grab our basic material. And under basic material here, we'll say modifiers, and we're going to say diffuse all the way up. So I can go through and I can start sampling. So this sample color here can be applied here. mRGB is fine, so we'll say color fill object, and then we'll sample this color, color fill object, and then sample that belt color, which I think is the same as this one. And then the pants color, same. And the boot color is brown here. Oh, so that's funny. So let's go down here to our texture map, make sure that's off. And then, so we had a texture loaded, and then you do a color fill. Let me see. Yeah, it'll go ahead and throw that texture on there. So texture off, and then we'll say color fill object. And then I think we're dang close. And it looks like that one is, yeah, same color. And here, you know what? It's fine. So I'll go ahead and turn on perspective, hit Control and clear our canvas. Let's turn on our floor here. And he's the lowest point in our tool here, so it'll actually capture that. So if we want to do a quick beauty render, first let's grab our skin material, and under materials we're going to say wax modifiers, crank the strength up a bit. And then underneath rendering, we need to turn on our wax modifier. Render properties. Yes, allow wax preview. So that'll give me a little bit of that subsurface scattering type look. And then when I hit BPR, although probably, let's do this. Let's hit C, drag this out here, and just temporarily, you know what? I'm going to leave his feet. That's fine. So we'll go through here and let's organize this a little bit more. So I'm going to say my visible count. I'm going to drag this up a little bit. And then all of these I can drag into this folder here. And we'll turn off. Oops. Okay, yeah, that was those eyeballs. Okay, so this is all off, this is all on, so I won't have any weird shadows. Except for that one. Shoot this down to the bottom, and then just drag that into the Go folder. Okay, now it's gone. So we go through here and we can render. If I want to change these shadows a little bit or the lighting, we can go in here to our, what am I looking for? Our light. Here we can move that light direction around. And then let's also go in here to rendering, and I'm going to say underneath shadow properties here, we're going to say drop that global strength and then the floor strength, and then the angle, we can crank that up a little bit here. And then as the shadows get further out, they'll kind of get a little bit faded, and then I think we're good to go, although those feet really bother me. So even though we're not going to necessarily see the feet, I'm going to go through here, kind of inflate this up a little bit here, put a little Damien standard indication of some toes. Go in here with our standard brush, turn off mRGB, just keep Z turned on, turn the lazy mouse off, go through here and just give, again, just little indications that we got some toes here. And if you have your floor turned off, it's not going to render a shadow, cast shadow on the floor, but if you have your floor turned on, it should. So anyway, cool. Do you recommend any Marmoset course? Marmoset, well, unfortunately you can't buy it, it's free, but I do have, I mean, as far as like doing baking and rendering, go to the website, they have, their tutorials are fine. But in here, the mechanical skull stuff right here, so rendering, the baking, you're right. So here's, if you're just doing rendering in Marmoset, there's a bunch of different videos on like all the Marmoset settings in here for like rendering. For baking, unfortunately, going on here, actually I can send this out. So on this page, you're going to see how to make the mechanical skull from a organic skull, painter bakes and materials, and then rendering in Marmoset and Sketchfab are all on YouTube right here. If you want to buy the one from Gumroad, that's got how to sculpt a skull from scratch, and then also like game resing in Maya, ZBrush, and then Maya, Quad Draw, and then UV cleanup and breaking and hardening edges and baking in Marmoset and cages and UDIMs and stuff like that. That's all in the game res section. But also, like, yeah, Marmoset has good videos on that too as well. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. I think we're done for today. I have to actually get my day started. Unfortunately, one day I'll retire and I'll just do this as my job. But in the meantime, we have him sculpted out, and then our next stream maybe we'll go through and we'll do the actual scene. This kind of talking my way through this took longer. If you're not talking and you're just making, this obviously getting to this point won't take you very long. But yeah, we'll go through and we'll finish this out. We'll do the whole, I mean, this should be fairly quick too. Just kind of wrapping this around, putting some fiber mesh in here, posing the arms, doing a little environment around there, and then maybe rendering it out in Keyshot and ZBrush. So cool, awesome. Thanks everybody, and I'll try to stream sometime this month as opposed to waiting until an entire month, July, before I stream again. So speaking of save often, let's go in here and save. And we'll call this scene 02. I think we're good. Cool. Thanks, everybody. And see you all when